What John Paul II once called, with inexplicably prophetic words, the final confrontation is about to erupt, a battle not only against the world but within the church itself. Are we already in the midst of the very trial he foresaw? These words strike like lightning in the night, forcing us to stop, to watch, to reflect. Karol Wojtyła, the Pope who marked an era, was not merely a pastor. He was a man who could see beyond the veil of time, a prophet warning the world of an imminent danger, a danger that today, perhaps, is revealing its true face. Brothers and sisters, this is no ordinary story. It's a journey into the heart of a mystery that shakes the faith and calls us to choose sides. John Paul II left behind a fiery legacy, words, visions, and warnings that still ring like bells in the storm. What did he really know? What truth did he guard in the silence of his prayer? And why does his cry sound more alive than ever today? Prepare yourself to discover the hidden prophecy of a pope who saw apostasy approaching and who pointed us toward the way to resist it. Karol Wojtyła was no ordinary man. Born in a Poland torn apart by war and totalitarianism, he had encountered evil in its rawest forms: Nazism, communism, persecution of the faith. Yet within him burned a light that no darkness could extinguish. When he ascended to the papacy in 1978, the world welcomed him as a beacon of hope. Young, charismatic, tireless, John Paul II seemed destined to change history, and he did, but not without a cost. Behind his radiant smile, behind the words that ignited the crowds, there was a heavy burden, a secret only great prophets carry. He expressed it clearly in a speech that still sends shivers today. We are now standing in the face of the greatest spiritual battle humanity has ever seen. It wasn't just rhetoric. It wasn't a generic call to arms. It was a cry, a warning, an echo of something he saw with absolute clarity. John Paul II knew that the Church was about to face an unprecedented trial, not an external persecution like those he had witnessed in Poland. This time, the danger would come from within, a peril called apostasy. The word apostasy is a dagger to every Christian heart. It's not about doubting or making mistakes. It's the deliberate abandonment of the faith, the rejection of Christ by those who once knew him. In his second letter to the Thessalonians, St. Paul describes apostasy as the prelude to the arrival of the man of lawlessness, the Antichrist. But before this occurs, Paul says there will be a katéchon, a force or a person restraining evil, preventing chaos from taking over. Who was the katéchon? Many believed that John Paul II embodied this figure. During his 26-year pontificate, he stood as a bulwark against forces threatening to dissolve the Christian truth. With his powerful voice, he defended life, family, the Eucharist, and human dignity. He called young people to holiness, challenged relativism, and proclaimed Christ without compromise. But when his voice fell silent in 2005, something changed. A cold wind began to blow through the church. In the heart of Portugal, in Fatima, 1917, 3 shepherd children, Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta, received a message that would shake the world. The Virgin Mary appeared to them, bringing a dire warning for humanity. Among the 3 secrets of Fatima, the third still stirs controversy today. Officially revealed in 2000, it depicts a bishop dressed in white who, along with others, is killed at the foot of a cross. John Paul II, having survived the assassination attempt on May 13, 1981 in St. Peter's Square, saw himself in that vision. But was that truly the whole story? According to Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict XVI, the third secret did not end with the published vision. There were words from the Virgin, never made public, referring to a deep spiritual crisis, a loss of faith within the Church itself. Sister Lucia, the last surviving Fatima visionary, reportedly told trusted individuals that the secret spoke of an apostasy starting from the Church's highest ranks, a crisis that would shake the very foundations of Christianity. John Paul II read the Third Secret shortly after his election. It is said he spent that entire night in prayer, as if he had seen something that marked him forever. From that moment on, his mission became crystal clear: to be a bulwark, a defender of the faith, a katéchon who would restrain evil for as long as he lived. Another prophetic voice echoes through time, that of Anne Catherine Emmerich, a German mystic from the 19th century, beatified by John Paul II in 2004. Her visions are startling. She spoke of a strange, large church without God, built by men, lacking the cross and true sacraments. She described a church persecuted but also betrayed from within, where truth would be obscured by compromises and ambiguity. Today, many see her words as a reflection of the confusion shaking the Catholic world, divisions among cardinals, theologians contradicting tradition, and widespread disorientation among the faithful. It's as if the once solid rock of the church had become a battlefield, where truth slips away, replaced by compromises and half-truths. John Paul II wasn't merely a witness of his era, he was a warrior. His encyclicals, such as Veritatis Splendor and Evangelium Vitae, were sharp swords against the rising tide of moral relativism during the 1980s and 1990s. He spoke with clarity, leaving no room for doubt. Truth exists. Christ is the truth, and the Church is called to guard it. Do not be afraid. Open wide the doors to Christ. These words, spoken at the beginning of his pontificate, were not only a battle cry, they were a warning. The world was changing, and the Church was about to face a trial like never before. During his reign, the waves of secularism and relativism were held back, but after his death, deeper signs of crisis began to emerge. When John Paul II died on April 2, 2005, the world mourned a giant. His successor, Benedict XVI, carried forward the same vision, but his papacy was marked by rising storms, scandals, divisions, and a growing sense of disorientation. Then, in 2013, Benedict XVI's resignation shook the world. For the first time in centuries, a pope stepped down, leaving a void that many saw as a prophetic sign. Since then, the Church has been sailing through ever more turbulent waters, empty seminaries, deserted churches in many regions, and a faith fading among the youth. Above all, a doctrinal confusion seems to undermine the very foundations of the Church. Is this the time of apostasy that St. Paul spoke of? Is this the moment when the katéchon, John Paul II, held back evil until the end of his life? John Paul II's words, spoken as a cardinal in 1976, now ring louder than ever. We are now standing in the face of the greatest conflict between the Church and the anti-Church, between the gospel and the anti-gospel, between Christ and the Antichrist. These weren't mere words, they were a warning. Today, many wonder if that time has arrived. The crisis of faith, internal divisions, and the loss of the sense of sin all seem to align with the prophecies of Fatima and Anne Catherine Emmerich, but there is still hope. Brothers and sisters, John Paul II wasn't just a pope. He was a prophet, a katéchon, a man who saw the future and fought to protect the truth. Today, his example calls us to make a choice, to remain faithful to Christ, even when the world pushes us toward compromise, even when confusion surrounds us, even when the pastors fall silent. His final Angelus, whispered with frail voice, became a spiritual testament. Christ conquers, Christ reigns, Christ commands. This is our strength. This is our mission. Are you ready to be a watchman of the dawn? Are you ready to stay awake, to pray, to resist? Join us, because you are not alone. Subscribe to this channel, share this message, and together, let's keep the flame of faith alive. God bless you.